My first impression of moving to Washington after living in Southern California for a long time is that I felt like I was living in a campground.
So I don't have like the traditional like I love kids story of teaching. Like I became a teacher because I want to be a change agent. Like I understand that communities are based on like what happens in schools. And so I live in the neighborhood where I teach. And so basically what I'm trying to do is plant seeds for the future. Like the students I'm working with are the future small business owners, entrepreneurs, real estate agents, law enforcement, and my colleagues.
I think with the way things are now, there's just always a looming level of like, what is the future going to look like for my children?
I was the first person in my family to graduate from university. I grew up very working class. My father was a police officer, and so everything I had as a kid was paid for by tax dollars.
I've lived in Florida, I've lived in Missouri, I've lived in Chicago and Illinois, and I've lived here. And I guess out of all of those states, you know, it is really disappointing to find out that Washington is on the absolute rock bottom for the way that our tax system works.
I mean, it's stupid. Like, why would a state like Idaho that's so conservative actually be looking out better for its people?
When we decided to move to Washington State because of its tax code as we understood it, and I became aware that the state was struggling in some ways with an upside-down tax code, we became deeply ashamed that we were not doing our part.
I never understood why the working person, who is basically the motor, has to suffer the most.
I have friends who have had to drop out of college because tuition was too expensive and they had to put their education on hold, which makes it harder later on to be able to go back.
Sometimes we have people who, you know, come to us and they have an acute need, like, you know, they're bleeding from their arm, right? And we go to fix their arm. But they have other complications that were not related to their acute issue. So they may have dependency issues, they may be in abusive situations, they may have unstable housing. And I think, you know, paying taxes kind of creates that sort of social safety network that we all need and benefit from, even if we don't realize it.
In many ways, the funding model we have in Washington State is both a cause of inequality and then reinforces inequality that we have.
There are states in this country where you have to pay a subscription in order to fund the fire department in your locality. And if you don't, their hands are tied and they're not allowed to put the fire out at your home. They'll watch your home burn to the ground because they're not allowed to do it because no one wants to pay.
And I know taxes are not popular with anybody, but our attitude, my husband's and mine, has kind of been flipped on its head. We want to pay our fair share.
Everyone should be concerned and everyone should be involved, because if you're not, if you choose to be apathetic about it, which many people are and they don't even realize they're being apathetic, those programs go away. And once they go away, it's really hard to get them back.
I know there's a lot of money here. I know that there's a lot of dollars being generated out of this particular economy. I can only imagine if the tax code is really messed up that we're not really taking advantage.
It has to be something that we just constantly have to keep talking about.
I wouldn't be sitting in front of you right now like if I wasn't educated in a high quality public school. And everybody deserves that same opportunity.